So welcome everybody. Thank you for coming to Tara Institute on a Monday night when the weather's beautiful and you could be doing all sorts of other things. But I'm glad you've come here to hear about some of the teachings of the Buddha and perhaps to go away with some better understanding about what the Buddha's teachings are about, and also to give you some practice at doing some meditation. So the structure of the night, I see many faces here from last week, will just be we'll do a quick 10-minute meditation at the start, and then I've got lots of things I want to talk about karma, and so I'll probably ramble on, so please interrupt me at any point if you want, and then we'll finish with a meditation, 10-minute meditation at the end, and you're welcome to stay for a cup of tea at the end of that. So I thought we should repeat what we did last week, and which is a meditation that was taught to me by a Geshe in Adelaide, Geshe Gelsen, which I'd never seen before, and subsequent to that I saw His Holiness the Dalai Lama teaching it to a large audience. So I'd like to try that one again, because the Dalai Lama says that this is like what was the word? A tranquilizer. Like if we're feeling particularly agitated and disturbed, and he said this is very good for calming the mind. So there's some physical gestures in it, so it's something that you would do at home, but I try and do it every morning, and I think there's some benefit in it actually. So all right, so the physical part is you put your thumb where your ring finger is. It might seem strange, but there is science about this, about energy channels in the body and how this is effective. It's very profound, but at our level we don't understand the profundity of it, but it's something that the Dalai Lama taught, so he encourages us to do it. So there, thumb on the ring finger and then your fist together, and you put your hands like this, just on your thigh, and then you can just copy me for the first one. So you go up like this and the hands go out, and then the fist goes under the left arm socket, and then with your index finger you block your right nostril, and then you take a deep breath, fill your lungs, then block your left nostril and breathe out.
Through your nose?
Through your nose. Then repeat that 2 more times. Cover your right nostril. One more time. Okay, that's the first one. Then we'll repeat it again, but this time we're going to go to the right. So go up, out, and then under that arm socket, and then now your left nostril, and breathe in, fill your lungs. And breathe out, covering your right nostril. Repeat 2 more times. Okay, that's the second part. And then for the last part, it's taught with the hands. As we breathe in, our fingers come together, and as we breathe out, the fingers come out. So let's breathe in through both nostrils and completely fill your lungs. In, and then out. 2 more times. Okay, so that's something to start the day with. Recommended to do that before you have breakfast. And after that, you can assume the meditation posture, and you can do, 21 rounds of breathing meditation on top of that, just to further settle the mind. You can do that as well. So, okay, so let's also repeat the meditation we did last week. So have a look at Guru Shakyamuni Buddha, the big statue behind me. Have a look and try and memorize the image, and then close your eyes and try and remember, and then open up, have another look, try and memorize the image, because we're going to try and do called a single pointed meditation, where we're choosing the Buddha as our object of observation. So the term is, our meditation object is going to be the Buddha, but we're going to visualize the Buddha with our mental consciousness, not with our visual consciousness. But you can look and try and remember the features, and then bring that into your mind about an arm length away and about the size of your thumb in front of you, level with the brow. So that's where we're trying to picture the Buddha. So let's just try that a bit. And he's seated on a lion throne, and on top of that lion throne is a lotus, a white lotus. On top of that rests a flat moon disk and a sun disk. And on top of those sits Shakyamuni Buddha. His left hand is cradling a begging bowl filled with nectar. His right hand is resting on his right knee, touching the ground in what's called the earth touching mudra. The Buddha's face is serene and peaceful, and with golden light radiating. Let's try and focus our mind on that image before us. We're not counting our breaths, we're just trying to focus our attention on this image of the Buddha. Important to think that the Buddha is blazing with light. It's very bright, and also very heavy. And a combination of these two help bring about some clarity and stability as we do this. Okay, let's just bring ourselves back. So this is something to be practiced at home in a quiet time, away from distractions. And, you know, if it can be done every day, it's very good. And it can slowly improve with the more practice. And, you know, those meditators that work very hard to try to develop what's called single point of concentration, you know, where you can hold the object of your meditation for as long as you like, totally undistracted, totally clear, amazing state of mind called Shinei in Tibetan, or single point of concentration. It's like the most wonderful tool that you have then at your disposal to investigate, analyse a whole lot of other things. Yes?
Is it like, might it be wrong if there might be intrusive thoughts invading your mind if this is happening?
No, look, that's just the reality. Our mind is full of distraction. As soon as we try to hold on to an object, we recognise our mind's just racing everywhere.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine and normal. So the thing is, with persistent practice and enthusiasm, then eventually, you know, there is some greater stability and greater strength in being able to focus on that object. I hope I can achieve that one day, but you know, this is what our teachers tell us. So we've been talking about, this is my 4th week, and I can see some faces here that have come throughout that, and I've tried to carry a theme through here. So we've spoken about the precious human rebirth that we've obtained. This isn't just like any normal human rebirth. A normal life, we've obtained a precious human rebirth where not only have we got all the supporting conditions around us, good health and material needs or whatever, we've actually come across and met the teachings of the Buddha. And not just having met the teachings of the Buddha, the fact that you're all here tonight even says you're open to want to learn more about that. And, you know, having faith in wanting to explore and learn more about the Buddhist teachings is one of the great features of the precious human rebirth. And so I won't talk much more about precious human rebirth because I've talked about it before. But the main impetus of it is that it's compared to a wish-fulfilling jewel. No, sorry, not compared to a wish-fulfilling jewel. The precious human rebirth is far more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel. So if you could imagine this wish-fulfilling jewel that can grant everything that we could possibly want in our life, houses and cars and all material needs and whatever, that would be, you know, something wonderful, but the precious human rebirth compared to that is far more precious. Why? Because, you know, it's just a matter of years before this life will finish. It's not, well, it won't last forever. It has to finish. Death is certain. And so whatever we've accumulated in our life, however much we've looked after our body, however many friends we have, they're all left behind at the point of death. So we have to question, well, what is of benefit at that point? So I've mentioned before about it, the importance of practicing virtue and abandoning non-virtue, because that precious thought at the point of death is very powerful in directing your next birth, your next reincarnation. So I've talked about this as well, that when death occurs, there's only 2 possibilities. We are either going to be born in the upper realms of existence or in the lower realms of existence. The lower realms are characterised with great suffering. The lesser of the lower realms is the animal realm. So we can see the animal realm. And I mean, as I left tonight, you know, the 3rd worm I've seen today on the footpath being just totally eaten alive by ants. But, you know, a worm is an animal birth. It's a sentient being that has been reborn as a worm. And anyway, all I'm saying is the animal realm is characterised by great suffering, and there's even further suffering in the realms below that we could create a cause to be born in. So really thinking about, I'm not trying to scare everybody, but really thinking about how crucial this life is, to make the most, to be most prepared for at the end of this life. Hearing about these lower realms should generate some sense of fear in us. We don't want to be born in the lower realms. We're told, the Buddha taught, that the cause for rebirth in the lower realms is the practice of non-virtue, non-virtuous actions of body, speech and mind, which we all engage in various degrees. And this life that we have now is not the only life. We have had beginningless lives prior to this, so we actually carry a great reservoir of karmic imprints from previous lives. So we can't be, which could result in rebirth in the lower realms or in the upper realms. We've got a fortunate rebirth in this one. But we can't guarantee what will happen at the point of death. So the next thing that I was talking about last week leads us to the topic of refuge, and who can we place our trust in to guide us, to give us a sense of security and some control for our future. And this is where we talked about the three refuges of the Buddha, the Dharma and the Sangha. Because the Buddha is like the teacher, the enlightened one, having abandoned all fault and accumulated all virtue. And the Buddha taught the method to achieve that same state. So he taught the Dharma, which is the second object of refuge. And then, of course, the Sangha is the third, which is the followers of the Buddha, those people that want to integrate the teachings of the Buddha and will support us in our practice. So then, precious human rebirth, death and impermanence, lower realms, seeking or seeing that there is a reliable object of refuge that can help us at that point, then that leads us to the question, well, how can the Buddha actually help us at that point? So it's not really the Buddha refuge that can help us at that point. It's the Dharma, which is the teachings that the Buddha has given. So we are our own protectors. We have to integrate what the Buddha has taught and create positive karma. That's the true protection. That's the true refuge that we take of the three jewels of refuge. So it's a bit like if we go to the doctors, we're sick, the doctor tells us what to do, prescribes the perfect medicine, we look at it and say, yeah, this medicine is fantastic. I love the colour of it, I love the label and the name, but we never take it. It is of no benefit. We've had a perfect diagnosis of our problem, we've got the perfect medicine in front of us, but if we don't take it, then there's of no benefit whatsoever. So this is really the importance of the Dharma refuge. We need to take ownership and actually follow some of the guidance after we've done our own investigation, because as the Buddha said, don't do anything just because I say it. You need to do your own thorough investigation. If you feel conviction in that, then integrate it. And I just loved when the Dalai Lama came to Melbourne many years ago and he taught at the Rod Laver Arena. There was 20,000 people there, and at the end of the talk he said, if anything I've said has resonated with you, then to put it into practice, integrate it. Otherwise, forget it. You just said, forget it. It doesn't matter. So that's the importance of our own inner investigation. And one of the quotes that I wrote down, which the Buddha said, you are your own best friend and you are your own worst enemy. So Buddhism is different in a way than I don't know, it seems a bit different to me, in that we bear the responsibility for where we're at and our future. It's solely our responsibility. Who else is going to get inside our head and tame our wild mind, our angry mind, or our attachment, and the actions that, come out of those sort of states of mind? No one else can do that. We have to do it. So this is where the topic of karma comes in. So I need to keep my eye on the time because I've got lots I want to say, but at the same time I do welcome questions. But so the all of the Buddha's teachings were summarised by the great Lama Atisha in about the 11th century, and he summarised it into what became known as the Lam Rim. And the Lam Rim stands for Graduated Path to Enlightenment. And there are 3 stages within the Lam Rim. And Lama Atisha from India brought this to Tibet. And from in Tibet, the Lam Rim flourished. And the Lam Rim is, if ever you receive any teachings from any of the Lamas, Geshe Doga or Lama Zopa Rinpoche, they always emphasise the most important thing is to understand the Lam Rim, which is the graduated path to enlightenment. If you have an overview, then you can understand where the practices are important and why they're important at that stage. So there's the small scope stages of the path, the middle scope stages of the path, and the great scope stages of the path that are presented in the Lam Rim. So what I've mainly been talking about is the small scope stages of the path, the precious human rebirth, death and impermanence, the lower realms, possibility of birth in the lower realms, refuge and karma. And this is all about the goal of the small scope stages of the path. I don't want to be reborn in the lower realms. What do I have to do to protect myself from not being reborn in the lower realms in my immediate next life, which could be tomorrow? We don't know. So the small scope stages of the path present the reasons that lead us to taking refuge, that lead us to the importance of observing our karma. And why? Because we don't want to be reborn in the lower realms. Then, you've got a question, mate? then there's the middle scope stages of the path. So, so in our immediate next life, if we've been reborn in another fortunate human rebirth as we have now, then that's great. That's really good. That's what we want. But there's no certainty. Yes?
Who's getting reborn?
The continuum of our mind, our mental continuum. There's not specifically I am getting reborn, but the continuation of the mind keeps going. And the sort of rebirth that we get born into is blown by the karma that we've created. So we're responsible. You can say that there is an I that goes all the way through, because we are responsible for our actions, and the result of that, it's the continuity of that same mental continuum. But anyway, so I just want to quickly summarise the middle scope stages of the path. So even if we're born in a human realm in our next life, great. And the life after that, great. Life after that, oops. We broke one of our vows, or we've messed up, we've created a negative karma right at the point of death or whatever, and we've been reborn in the lower realms again. So until we have actually escaped from the cycle of samsara, of birth and death, endless circle, until we have escaped from that, we're caught in samsara. And there's no guarantee. It's described that the nature of samsara is like a burning iron ground. This is one of the descriptions. It doesn't matter where you're born within cyclic existence or samsara, its very nature is that of suffering. Anyway, that's a big topic in itself. But so the middle scope stages of the path seeks to obtain liberation from cyclic existence. So you're no longer trapped by your karma and afflicted emotions that cause you to create the negative karmas that keep you trapped in the cycle of samsara. So that's the middle scope stages of the path, and that's achieved in the state of nirvana. Complete liberation, permanent liberation. You are no longer forced through, you're no longer blown into your next existence because of whatever karmas you've created. You are liberated. Then the great scope stages of the path is the one that leads to full enlightenment. And okay, so we've achieved our own liberation. Fantastic. We are in an abiding state of permanent bliss and peacefulness. Never to experience suffering again. Great. What about everyone else that's still caught in samsara? What about our mother that brought us into this world, or our children, or our father, others? So the great scope stages of the path sees beyond our own need and out of, through appreciating the extent of our own suffering and recognising that that exists in all other sentient beings, through the development of profound love and compassion, says, well, in the development of that great scope, actually the individual takes on the responsibility. I am personally responsible. I am going to do whatever I can to liberate all sentient beings. And then the next part of that contemplation is, but I can't even be sure that I will not be reborn in the lower realms myself in my next life. Who can? It's only a Buddha that has the skill and the ability to truly benefit others. So then the motivation of the great scope practitioner is to achieve the state of enlightenment in order to be of greatest benefit to all sentient beings. And it's with that motivation that they can progress along the path and achieve exactly the same state that the Buddha achieved. So they're the three scopes, or three scopes of practice within the Lam Rim that lead to enlightenment. So that was just a summary. Any questions about that?
How exactly does all of this relate to one's life and whatever it is that they're going through?
To whatever we're going through?
Yeah, or whichever it may be, dependent on whichever person.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can look at our own life.
Yeah.
And, you have to recognise it. We're a human being. How do we become a human being? Why are we a human being? This human being is frail and subject to sickness, old age, death. So you can see that there are problems within the human existence. Then there are relationship problems that people have, terrible relationship problems. There's wars, there's all sorts of things. These all arise through karma and delusion. They're all part of samsara, that experience. So when you ask how... I think the first thing with hearing about Buddhism is to recognise, is there something wrong? Is there something I need to do? If there's nothing you need to do, then there's nothing you need to do. But there is something. There is a problem. Even if you think about the certainty of our own death, that provokes questions. And then you'd have to consider the mind, and at the point of death, is the mind continuous? Does it continue, or is it just blowing a candle out and that's the end? So there's lots to think about.
I was going to say, Chris, to say that the animals in the lower realms, that they're going to suffer more or less than if you're born as a human. Because, humans have a more developed prefrontal cortex, so have more thoughts and more complex ways of life. But Chris, to say that if you're born in the lower realms, like a worm, for example, but you're in the nice soil and you're happy and you have peace.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Well, that's true, and it's a good question, because there's horrific suffering in the human realm, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
People are tortured and people live
Yes.
and die of starvation. I can't believe that people just don't eat, starve, die. It's terrible. But I think the difference is that the human brain, there's potential. We have the ability to discriminate between right and wrong. We have the ability to develop ourselves under the right opportunities. Obviously, the description I'm just giving, that person has a very limited ability. And in the animal realm, they have virtually no ability to discriminate. Their brain is different. It sort of impressed on me when the Dalai Lama talked about it. The physical structure of their brain, because of course we are a combination of body and mind, so the brain isn't the mind, but the mind and the body are sort of together. And the brain of a being in the animal realm is limited, a lot more limited to progress and communicate. I mean, I look at my dog and, I was thinking about it today. He was barricaded in the bathroom because my wife was vacuuming. If we never let him out of the bathroom, he'd never get out. He'd be stuck there forever. I don't know. It's just the potential isn't there in the animal realm. And if you look at fish in the ocean, they're eaten by other fish, and the animals that are the wild animals that are attacked by other animals. It's not hard to recognise it's a vicious existence in an animal realm. Of course,
the issue I sometimes have is that dogs in the Western world live an absolutely privileged life.
Absolutely.
More than most people, you start to
Yeah.
think, I don't think they feel like they're in the lesser realm.
No.
Why not rule the house?
No, that's right. And our family cat just died. And we've always said that this cat has been born into the best family. It's like the cat Pure Land, where we've done prayers for it. It's had everything it possibly needs, the comforts, and same with the dogs. So absolutely, and actually this comes out when I talk about karma, because it's an unfortunate rebirth in the animal realm, but then there is something called completing karma, which is the circumstances on which that animal has been born. So if they are born into a family that actually cares about them, takes them to the vet, feeds them, then they have a very good dog life, a good cat life. No doubt about that.
So how does an animal that's not privileged,
Yeah.
domestic animal, how would it elevate itself in the future?
Well, look, that's a very good question, and
Assuming you have the consciousness that it wasn't to do that.
I think I could only answer that by saying it's more when their negative karma is exhausted, and then they may have imprints from previous lives for obtaining a human rebirth, and finally that negative karma has exhausted that caused them to be in that lower realm, and they may achieve a human rebirth. It's not.
It just seems to me like, where's the new talent go to enter the human arena?
Where's the what?
Where is the new talent go to enter the human arena if all these animals are sort of trapped, as it were, in a lesser form of existence?
Well, that's true, and the Buddha demonstrated. He grabbed some sand, some dirt in his hand, and he said, "This is the number of beings with a precious human rebirth. The rest of the earth, the soil of the earth, represent those beings in unfortunate realms." So it's not like it's easy to escape the lower realms. Once you're there and you're killing other animals for your own survival, you're creating further negative karma to further propitiate you being born in the lower realms again. It just goes on. It's a vicious cycle, and that's why they talk about the precious human rebirth. The causes for a precious human rebirth are extremely rare. The primary one is the practice of pure morality. Through practicing pure morality, through practicing generosity and stainless prayers, this is what's described, that is the cause to obtain a precious human rebirth. And those causes are extremely difficult to create. That's why they're saying, we've obtained such a precious human rebirth. We need to recognise it, otherwise we're not going to take advantage of it. So let me just keep going, because I'm going to whip through this. Because karma, of course, is something that, is part of our, it's a word within the English language. Everybody knows what karma is. Or they have an idea of what karma is, yeah?
Well, I have a question about karma. Because I do understand it, but if you have a good intention for something and it actually causes negative harm, what happens then? Do you have still positive karma, or is that, I don't know?
Well, yes. It's all about the intention that makes it, whether it's a positive or a negative karma. That's the most important thing. But let me talk about it first, come back to that. So the thing about karma is that every action of our body, speech and mind, karma is about the law of cause and effect. So an action has a result. And we express our actions through our body, speech and mind. That's the only way we can express it. Through our physical body, we can do things. We can harm someone, we can help somebody. Through our speech, we can verbally abuse somebody, or we can say very kind words. And with our mind, we can think negatively and hatefully and angrily, or we can generate love and compassion and things like that. So we express our actions through our body, speech and mind. And when we create an action, it plants a seed on our mental continuum, on our mind. And that seed has the potential to ripen in the future when the right circumstances arise. So actions plant seeds that can potentially bring about a result. In summary, non-virtuous actions of body, speech and mind will always result in our experiencing a suffering consequence. Virtuous actions of body, speech and mind will always result in our experiencing happiness and pleasant circumstances. So within karma, there are 4 characteristics about karma. Karma is definite. Karma increases. We won't experience the results of karmas we haven't created, and karmas that have been created will never be exhausted. So if I go back to those 4, we'll just start with the first one. Karma is definite. So if you plant a lemon seed in the ground, only a lemon tree will be produced. Or an orange seed, only an orange seed will be produced. So karma is definite about the outcome. So this is the importance of, it's a funny thing. We want to be happy. We don't want to suffer. So why do we? There's a dependent relationship. There are causes that make us experience the things that we don't want. And there are actions that make us experience the things that we do want. So I wanted to give an example of a story, under this karma is definite. So this is going back at the time of the Buddha, and I want to do a book promotion. This is a book called An Anthology of Well-Spoken Advice, and I've read it a number of times. I've loved it for 30 years. And it's written by Geshe Ngawandagi, who's since passed away, but he's actually been reincarnated and is a 30-year-old man in India now, who I've met as well, which was wonderful when I went to India. And Geshe Ngawandagi is Geshe Doga's primary teacher, Geshe Doga being the resident teacher here for 40 years. It's just wonderful. And I did check it in the library, and I think I mentioned it to you, Carol. Is it Carol? I mentioned it to you. There's one copy in the library. But anyway, if you're interested in learning about in a very clear presentation and a very detailed way. Precious Human Rebirth, Death and Impermanence, Refuge, Karma. You have to get that book. I think it's really good. So in this book, it talks about the 4 characteristics of karma and this particular example. So at the time of the Buddha, there was a person called Yashabhadrika, who was a short and deformed person. And at the time, the King Prasenajit, was travelling through the area and trying to, this is another interesting story that I won't even talk about, but he was trying to capture a criminal, Angulimala, who for some reason had killed 999 people, and he was trying to catch his last victim, and he was told that if he has 1,000 thumbs and wears that, he will achieve enlightenment or liberation or something. So, very misguided. But anyway, so the king was looking for this particular person, which, interestingly enough, the Buddha had actually skillfully met and was able to tame and subdue that particular person's mind and actually completely transform him. And that's a whole story that Geshe Doga taught us here as well. He was able to completely subdue and tame that person's mind so that they totally abandoned their evil ways, regretted them greatly, took to heart the Buddha's teaching, and became a liberated being. He achieved liberation from cyclic existence under the guidance and because he took such refuge in the Buddha. Anyway, so this is all happening in the background, but anyway, the king's chasing him and the Buddha's in a way protecting him because there's no point for you to imprison him now. This person is totally tamed. But, sidetracked, but while the king was looking for that, he heard this most magnificent voice, just an enchanting voice. And he thought, who is that? And he was so drawn to it that he actually went and looked, and this deformed dwarf, I think, was, chanting prayers in a small little hut. And the king was so taken back was so attracted by his voice, but it was so taken back by his appearance that he actually went to the Buddha and said, can you tell me what this is about? Why has this come about? And this is another quality of the enlightened mind, that only a Buddha can clearly see everything in terms of cause and effect. So any other highly advanced spiritual being cannot see clearly the cause and effect that results in things happen the way that they do. So he went to the Buddha, and the Buddha said, yes, this particular person, so we're in the fourth, see, look at that, it's already 8:45, I haven't really even started. This is the fourth or the third Buddha of this eon. Kanakabuni, I think, was the name. This particular person was working with a team to build a stupa, a monument to worship that particular Buddha after he died. And all the time during that construction, he was a monk. All the time during that construction, he was complaining. And he was saying, does it have to be such a big stupa? Can we not make it smaller? And then eventually the stupa was built. And he actually rejoiced in it. He thought, this is wonderful. And he was so regretful that he was complaining that he eventually offered a bell to the top of the stupa. And that was the cause for him to have this voice. But the appearance of him as a deformed person was the karmic result of his lazy and negative attitude towards building such a monument. I find that a really lovely story. It just sort of gives you a bit of a sense of karma and how it can work. And then there was another one, in one of the previous lives of Shakyamuni Buddha, he was the captain of a ship, and there were 500 people on board the ship, and one of the people on there was intent on killing all the people and robbing them. And the Buddha, the captain, before, it must have been before the Buddha achieved enlightenment, but on his path, one of the prior lives, he saw through his own clairvoyance what was going on. He realised that this person was going to kill all of these people. And because of his compassion, his pure compassion, he didn't want that oarsman to suffer the consequences of being born in a hellish realm through the negative karma of killing all those people. And he didn't want the people to be killed either. So the Buddha killed him out of his, for those reasons. And it was said, because the motivation was so pure, and it was said that because of the virtue of his motivation, that it was so pure and, unstained, that he accumulated a vast amount of merit and helped him progress along the path a lot. But the story goes that, of course, it was a negative action. Killing is always a negative action. It can never be anything else. And he experienced that, but in a very simple way, in that he stood on a thorn and pierced his foot, and he experienced that pain in his foot. That's one of the stories that's given about. This is in terms of karma is definite. Even though the Buddha had purified all his negative karma, even though he had accumulated all the merit and all the realizations, that particular act still resulted in him experiencing that. Anyway, I hope that didn't confuse people by that example. Okay, so that was about karma is definite. The next one was karma increases. So from a small seed, a huge tree can result. And there's a story about somebody who commented to a monk who was chanting away and said, "You sound like, your voice is like a dog's voice." It was annoying him. And that small action created the cause for that person to be reborn as a dog for 500 lifetimes. That's one of the examples. And then there's another one. Vasubandhu was one of the great teachers from the past in India. And he used to chant his prayers. And there was a pigeon that used to come and roost on the roof nearby and heard those prayers. And but he never quite heard the whole text, but most of the text. Anyway, that pigeon was reborn as a monk, as a person, as a human, and became a monk and became a great scholar on that particular topic, although always struggled with that last chapter. So I'm trying to just give examples of small things producing great results or vast results. That's why they say not to shoo away flies if they're, coming on Dharma books or near statues or anything. Let them create some karmic imprint from doing those things. Okay, so the third one is that we won't experience the results of actions not performed. And in a nutshell, I think a good example is in India with that plane crash recently, where it crashed into the building. Everyone died apart from one person, I think, that walked away almost uninjured. Did people hear about that one? Why did he not die in that? So this is an example of, if you haven't created the karma for something to happen, it won't happen. And then for actions that we have created, they will never go away. The seeds don't rot, eventually rot. If an action has been planted on your mental continuum, it will be there forever. And if the circumstances arise, that seed can be matured and ripened at the point of death because of the right circumstances coming together, that seed will ripen. So they're the four general characteristics of karma. So the important thing that I wanted to now talk about is about you know, I was saying about the refuge object of the Dharma is what is our true refuge. That is about taking responsibility for the actions of our body, speech and mind. And the best way we can do that, and ensuring that those actions as much as possible are virtuous and avoiding the non-virtue. So we need to try to avoid the 10 non-virtuous actions as much as possible. And they are the 3 of body: killing, stealing, sexual misconduct. And the 4 of speech: lying, harsh speech, divisive speech and idle gossip. And the 3 of mind, of strong desire, hatred and wrong views or ignorance. That particular one, seems to be saying more like denying that there's past or future lives, or denying that the laws of cause and effect works, or denying, that it's possible to achieve enlightenment. They're examples of that, of ignorance. So we need to abandon the 10 non-virtues as much as possible. If we create negative karma, if we create a complete negative karma, then the results are far more disastrous. And what makes a complete negative karma? We'll talk about killing as an example. So, in order for it to be complete, there are 4 parts that have to be present. There's got to be an object, there's got to be an intention, there's got to be an action, and there's got to be a completion. So if we think about somebody that's going hunting and they've spotted a deer, they've got the object, it's a deer. The intention, I want to kill that deer. Now when it comes to the intention, it has to be, there's 3 parts to that intention. I want to kill that deer. First thing is the recognition. If you aim and shoot that deer, but you actually hit a different animal, then that's not going to make it a complete negative karma. Still very negative, but not a complete negative karma. So it has to have recognition. I am going to kill that deer. And I'm going to do it, and with that strong motivation, I want to kill that deer. And it has to be associated with either hatred, attachment or ignorance. I'm going to kill that deer because I'm really hungry. I'm going to kill that deer because they eat the crops in my property. Or I'm going to kill that deer because it's a good sacrifice that I want to make to the gods or something. They're the 3. There's different sort of attitudes that can happen. But if that action includes any of those 3, and then you do the action, and then the animal dies before you die, then that's complete negative karma of killing. And that's a very negative action, very destructive. You can apply exactly the same to the other non-virtuous actions. Of stealing, you've got an object you want to steal, you've got the intention, I'm greedy for it, I'm going to steal it because I don't like my neighbour having it, or I'm going to steal it because somebody said it's good to steal. Those sort of things. So you can have the same 4 features that make a complete negative karma. So, and when you create such a negative karma, there are 3 results. There are 3 ripening results. If that karmic seed should ripen, there's the ripened result, there's the result similar to the cause, and there's an environmental result. So the ripened result from killing is being reborn in the lower realms. There's no question about that. It has the potential to cause rebirth in the lower realm. Result. So if you think about that, so if you've done that heinous sort of thing, you've been reborn in the lower realms for however long you'll be there. Eventually, just say you've now exhausted that negative karma, because negative karma exhausts. Eventually, it's used up. You created a cause, the result is exhausted now. So you're no longer experiencing the result of that because you've experienced it. I guess it's a bit like a prison sentence. You're sentenced to jail for 25 years, 25 years is up, you're a free man. So the now having, for whatever reason, obtained a human rebirth, then there's also a result similar to the cause in terms of experience and in terms of habit. So that means if you've now been reborn as a human being, because of the karma of that killing that you created in the past, you will have a short life because you've created the short life of the animal that you've killed. So that's one of the karmic results. And you can look into society. People die at a young age. And I've often thought, in relation to this particular teaching, they must have created the cause to have a short life. It's described that one of the results similar to the cause of killing is to have a short life. And then the other thing is a result similar to the cause in terms of experience, in terms of habit. So you are born and you want to kill things. You like going hunting. You're attracted to that. So the habit continues in that future life. And then there's an environmental result. The environmental result of having killed is to be born in a country with poor food, poor medicine. Medicines are not effective. Maybe you've been born into a low caste, it says in this book. I guess that's in India. Of course, there's very low castes in India. So again, we're talking about a human being that doesn't know about the karma that they created lifetimes ago, but they're experiencing that result in that way. Hi.
I just wanted to ask, so what about like eating meat then?
Well, that's
yeah.
Look, eating meat's a good one. I'll just quickly answer that one because my daughter's vegan and she has a real go at me about eating meat because I still eat meat. And Geshe Yamandagi talks about meat. So eating meat, and of course what you might be thinking and what my daughter says, supply and demand. If I didn't buy meat from the butchers, from Woolworths, then the demand wouldn't be there. So in a way I'm indirectly putting an order in. I want you to kill a cow so I can eventually eat it. But I don't think that way at all. I would never ask them to do that, but it's there. And anyway, Geshe Yamandagi says that the karma from eating meat is that in your future life you have a propensity to be a carnivore, to still want to eat meat, or you could be creating the cause in the future for your own body to be eaten, but you're not creating the karma of killing. So it's a different thing.
What about like a a plant that eats insects, carnivorous plant?
Carnivorous plants?
They're like they survive as eating another insect or different type of insect. They're actually still living. A plant's a living thing, and the fly's a living thing.
Well, that's interesting from the point of view that I would say a plant doesn't have mental consciousness, and just as a leaf photosynthesizes from the sun and a combination of water and carbohydrates and it grows, it just happens that that plant uses that. But the plant's not creating negative karma from eating insects or anything like that, because there's no mental continuum in a plant. But let me just keep going, because we might miss the meditation, I think. I don't really want to, but I just really wanted to finish this off by saying, so I've tried to paint a picture here about karma. It's quite complicated when you break it down to the 10 non-virtuous actions and about how you can create a complete negative karma. And the complete negative karma has these 3 ripened results. A ripened result, the 3 results. A ripened result where you can be thrown into a lower realm or into a fortunate birth, but there's a ripened result. Then there's the result similar to the cause in terms of experience, a short life or a long life, and then there's the result in terms of habit, and then there's the environmental result. So Geshe Doga just recently taught on the importance of purification. because we've got a vast store of negative karmas on our mind. We don't know. We don't want to be reborn into any unfortunate state in our next life. I can't guarantee anything from my own perspective. I'm told that we store great negative karmas from the past, and we need to purify it, and that we are also creating negative karma every day. I mean, you know, if you get angry or you speak harshly at somebody, we're creating negative karma. But so it's very important that we do purification practice to purify our negative karma, and then focus on trying to practice virtuous actions as much as possible. So if you just, you know, I mentioned the ripened. Oh, okay. So in terms of purification, there's what's called the 4 powers, the 4 purifying powers that have the power to purify negative karma. You may have grown up and killed things, or you know you've done something wrong in your past and you regret it. Then it is possible, through really focusing on this, to completely disable that karmic seed so it cannot ripen. You won't experience the result of that karma. And so the 4 purifying powers are called the power of the base, the power of regret, the power of the remedy, and the power of the promise. So the power of the base is, if you fall over, you need to rely on the ground to get up again. So you have created negative karma either towards a sentient being, you've hurt somebody, or you've created negative karma towards the objects of refuge. You know, the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. Maybe you've been rude to your teacher, or you've done something. So the first power, the power of the base, is to take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, and also to generate the altruistic mind of bodhicitta, which is like a mind that arises out of great love and compassion towards all sentient beings. So if you can rely on the power of that base of going for refuge and generating bodhicitta, that's one of the purification powers. And it's said that if you do it really strongly, that has the power to purify the ripened result. So there's a link there. You know, the karma of killing, rebirth in the lower realm, by taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, then you can purify that particular negative karma from being reborn in the lower realm through killing. And so you're being reborn as a human being. Of course, there are the other consequences of that. You might have a short life, but you haven't been reborn in the lower realms. So then there's the power of regret. And this is one that we can relate to most of all. You know, we really regret if we've done something wrong. If you regret it really strongly and genuinely, it's said that it has the power to half purify, you know, that negative action. And you know, if somebody's genuinely and strongly regretful for something that they've done, you know, it's an inner thing, and it has the power to affect that result from not happening. So the power of regret can purify the result similar to the cause in terms of experience. So I was talking about killing, you have a short life. Through the power of regret, if you've got the power of the base and the power of regret, power of the base, you're no longer reborn in the lower realm. Power of regret, you're born as a human being, maybe you won't have the result of a short life from that karma created in the past. Then there's the power of the remedy. So there's lots of remedies available to do. You know, like saying mantras, doing prostrations, you know, meditating on emptiness is said to be one of the most powerful things. So that there are actual remedies. It's a bit like penance, I think, in the Catholic sense. Through the power of remedy, you can purify the result similar to the cause in terms of habit. So you're no longer born, because because of the power of the remedy, you no longer have the propensity that wants to still kill. you know, as a habit. And then the last one is the power of the promise, which is the environmental result. So if you make a heartfelt promise, I promise that I will never kill another living being, or I really regret killing that deer and I promise I won't ever do that again, that has the power to neutralise the ripening result where you may have been born in an unfortunate environment, you know, with much poverty and you know, lack of food and lack of supplies. So that was it. That's what I really wanted to cover, and I'm sorry I've gone over time, but it just opens up a little bit about karma. Karma is actually very logical, and but the main thing is we need to take ownership for our actions and observe our actions. If we don't, only we will experience the result, and we only want to experience a positive result. Therefore, we need to understand that a positive result will only come from virtue, and we don't want to experience difficulty, sickness, unhappiness. Then we need to avoid negative actions. And Geshe Doga recently said that if you're finding difficulty in your day-to-day life, if you're having something happen that, if something happens in your day-to-day life that you're not, can't get my words out, that you don't want to happen, something unfortunate has happened to you, then in a way, Geshe Doga said, that's in a way the Buddha talking to you as if to say, this is because of negative actions you've created in the past. So if you don't want to experience things like this, abandon non-virtue. And if things are going well in your life, you like what's happening, then in a way it's Buddha talking to you saying, keep it up. That's the sort of experience that comes from practicing virtue. If you want to continue to do that, practice virtue. So that was it. So let's just finish for now, unless somebody wants to ask a quick question, because we've gone a little bit over time.
Maybe it's a little bit out of topic, but it related to karma as well. Talking about 12 things of dependent origination.
The 12 links of
yeah?
independent
So
origination.
they say that actually everything that we are doing during this life creates the karma not for the next life. Like throwing karma already there. We cannot change the circumstances of our upcoming death, etc.
Oh no, we can.
But
Oh yeah.
But you create at this very moment, you create the karma not for the next life, but maybe for the third, for the fourth, etc.
Could be
for the next one.
No, it could be the next life. Could be the next life, because the in terms of the 12 links of interdependent origination, they occur over 2 or 3 lifetimes.
Mm-hmm.
Must be over 2 or 3 lifetimes. So if we're talking about our immediate next lifetime, if you've created negative karma or a positive karma in this life, then at the point prior to death, when there's craving and grasping, which are 2 of the links, that ripen karmic seeds, ripens the karmic seed that's most prominent in your life. And that determines that your next life as a result of that. So you could have created a karma in this life, and 2 of those links in there, craving and grasping and becoming, then resulting in birth into your next life.
Talking about purification. Talking about purification.
Okay.
When let's imagine, I created negative karma, and I noticed it straight away and tried to do everything that I could to purify it.
Oh, okay.
And now that probably it will be purified a little bit at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I noticed it and
Yes.
I created some intention not to do this again.
Yeah, sure.
More than likely I will do this again, but
Yeah.
probably not so often. No?
Yeah.
But it's one story. Another story, if I observe my life and I remember something from my past. If I observe in my past, my life,
Yes.
and I remember, it was wrong action, wrong attitude, and I'm trying to purify something that I did many years ago.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Is it, in terms of Buddhism system of knowledge,
Yeah.
it is the same process when we're purifying something that we created just a moment ago or years ago?
Yeah, exactly the same. So you can, when you do the purification practice, like there are specific meditation practices for purification, you can focus on something you remember specifically, or you can think generally, I'm going to purify all the negative karma that I've ever created. I regret ever creating negative karma. And it helps to neutralise that negative karma. Or you can focus on a specific thing in particular. Is that what you're meaning?
Yeah, but so it's wrong phrase, doesn't matter, but let's say it doesn't matter. Do you remember exactly what you did? Or its general intention? Something is happening, right?
Well, we've got so many more negative karmas from previous lifetimes we don't remember. They're still stored on our mind. They could be the ones that have ripened it.
But when a person generates intention, or generates the fear of lower realms, if the person generates intention, no, I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
I need to do something straight away in this very life in order at least to ease a little bit the process of dying and being embargoed, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So there should be some plan, to rely on I'm doing this, and at least there is a possibility that it will work.
Yeah.
Of course, there is no guarantee, but at least there is possibility.
Yeah, but you may not have the opportunity to purify all your negative karma in this life, but then at the point of death, if you're able to take refuge, strong refuge, then that's the most prominent thing, and that will protect you. It said if you take refuge, there's no way knowing that you will be reborn in the lower realm, even though you still carry all the baggage of negative karma into your next life, which could ripen again. But anyway. All right, so, okay, so sorry we have to stop. I feel like we could keep going, but so let's just settle just for a little bit, and we'll just try and think. What I'd like to do is just guide us through a little Buddha meditation and visualise the Buddha again in front of us, about an arm length away, radiating light, looking at you lovingly, peacefully, and just from your heart, look at the Buddha, whose intention is only to bring benefit to you. Make a request from your heart. Please, Buddha, please guide me, please protect me, please help me understand the teachings. Help me put the teachings into practice. Help me become a good human being. And as you feel this from your heart, feel that the light just pours out from the Buddha and comes in through your crown and completely fills your body, completely fills you with blessings. All your negativities are dissolved completely, and you're just filled with all the blessings to encourage you to practice virtue. And then you can visualise that the Buddha comes to the top of your crown, gets smaller and smaller, and then dissolves into you, into your heart. And you and the Buddha's body, speech and mind become inseparable. All right, thank you everyone. So, please stay for a cup of tea if you've got time. And John Wright will be coming next Monday night, and you should really enjoy John. He's very good.